People say love is blind, but sometimes it's just confused. If someone had told me I'd marry the wrong man, not emotionally, but physically, I would have laughed in their face. But life doesn't always care about what we believe. Sometimes, fate decides to play games so twisted, they feel like the plot of a Nollywood movie. This is the story of how I married my husband's twin brother by mistake, and what happened after. I met Emeka at a wedding in Owerri, tall, dark, quiet, and deeply thoughtful. He wasn't like the usual Igbo boys with fast mouths and faster eyes. He listened more than he spoke, and when he finally said something, it was deep, like water drawn from an ancient well. We started dating, and in less than a year, he proposed. It was sudden, but beautiful. On a calm Sunday morning, after church, he knelt in front of me with a simple gold band and said, "Ngozi, you complete my silence." Who says no to a man like that? There was always something strange, though. Sometimes, Emeka would act different. Like the time he showed up at my shop in Enugu wearing glasses he'd never worn before, speaking with a slightly different accent, and laughing louder than usual. "Are you okay?" I asked. He just smiled and said, "Just in a good mood today, my queen." At other times, he would forget things we had shared, like how I hate garden eggs or how I lost my dad. But I chalked it up to stress. He worked with an oil farm in Port Harcourt, and he traveled a lot. But the night before our traditional wedding, something happened that planted the first real seed of doubt. That night, I caught a glimpse of a man standing by the backyard, talking on the phone. He looked just like Emeka, but he was wearing a chain I'd never seen before. I tried calling out, but he slipped away before I got closer. When I mentioned it the next day, Emeka brushed it off. "That must be my cousin. I have many relatives around." He was right. The compound was filled with cousins, uncles, and villagers. I let it go. The traditional wedding went smoothly. There was palm wine, kola nuts, dancing, and endless laughter. I was adorned in red George wrapper, beads on my neck and wrist, looking like a true Igbo bride. Emeka was regal, his smile wide. But I remember one moment, just before the final blessing from the elders, when I looked into his eyes, and for a brief second, something felt off. Like he didn't recognize me, or like he was playing a role. I shook the feeling off. I had no time for doubt on such a joyous day. We traveled to Obudu Cattle Ranch for our honeymoon. It was peaceful, beautiful, and silent, just like I thought Emeka would like. But this version of my husband was louder. He laughed easily, cracked jokes with the hotel staff, and even ordered okra soup, which he once told me he hated. "Wait, you eat okra now?" He shrugged. "I guess tastes change." We were intimate that night, deeply. He was skilled in ways Emeka never showed. It confused me but excited me too. I thought maybe marriage brought out his passionate side. But the confusion began to mount. 3 weeks after the wedding, Emeka, or the man I thought was Emeka, left for work in Port Harcourt. 2 days later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. "Hello. Is this Mrs. Ngozi Okonkwo?" "Yes, speaking." "This is Emeka. Your husband." I froze. "Emeka. But you just left." "I never left. I was in an accident a week before our wedding. I've been in a private hospital in Owerri. Unconscious. I just woke up. I couldn't breathe." "What are you saying?" "My twin brother, Chuka, he must have." "No. He wouldn't." "But he did." Chuka, Emeka's identical twin, the brother no one talked about, had impersonated him. Emeka and Chuka had fallen out years ago. Chuka was the black sheep, charming, reckless, and always in trouble. They looked exactly alike but were nothing alike in character. When Emeka got into the accident, Chuka saw an opportunity. He came to the village, saw how no one knew him personally, and played his brother perfectly, except for a few cracks I had ignored. I had married the wrong man. And not just married, I had slept with him, shared vows, given my body and soul to him. When Chuka returned from his fake work trip, I was waiting. I stood by the door, my hands trembling. "Where is my husband?" I asked. He smirked. "You mean the one you married or the one in the hospital?" I slapped him so hard, my palm stung. But he didn't flinch. "You tricked me. You looked happy," he whispered. "You looked loved. More than my brother ever made you feel." I shook my head. "You are sick." He stepped closer, his eyes full of an emotion I couldn't define. "But you felt it too." "I know you did." I did. And that was the worst part. When I saw the real Emeka in the hospital, he looked older. Frilier. His eyes were kind, sad, confused. "I never meant for this to happen," he said softly. "I don't even know who I am married to," I whispered. "You're not married." "Not truly." That was a false ceremony, based on lies. But we signed the registry. Chuka used forged documents. My head spun. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. Except the feelings. I had felt something for Chuka. Something raw and real. But it was wrong. Wasn't it? I returned home. Chuka was gone. Vanished. Weeks passed. I stayed by Emeka's side, helping him recover. But something had shifted. His silences, once comforting, now felt empty. His hands felt unfamiliar. His kisses dry. I tried, but my heart was split in two. One night, I found a letter at my doorstep. It read, "Ngozi, I never meant to hurt you. But for the first time in my life, I felt what love could be. You changed me. And if fate had played fair, I would have met you first. I love you, not because I stole my brother's life, but because you gave me one worth living." Chuka. I was torn. Legally, emotionally, spiritually, I was bound to Emeka. But my heart had tasted something wild with Chuka. I hated him for his lies, but I couldn't deny that I had loved him, too. After months of reflection, I made a decision. I told Emeka the truth, that I couldn't stay. Not because I didn't care for him, but because what I had with Chuka had changed me. He nodded, hurt but understanding. "I lost you before I ever had you," he said. I left that day, carrying only a suitcase, and a heart broken in half. Epilogue, 2 years later. I never saw Chuka again. Some say he moved to Ghana. Others say he went to prison for fraud. But in the quiet of some nights, I feel him, like a ghost that touched my life, kissed my soul, and vanished. I'm still healing. I now teach literature in a small school in Nsaka. I teach my students that stories aren't always about right and wrong, sometimes they're about the spaces in between. Because love is not always pure. Sometimes, it comes wearing the wrong face.